Talking to a young man that rents a space next to my art studio and sells couches out of it. And he came over the other day and we were talking, and he was asking me about my favorite book suggestions. And I thought it was cool he asked. And I asked him what he was into, and he's into, self help and self improvement books and books about optimization and, self improvement podcasts, which I think is cool. As a 23-year-old, I was not into that kind of stuff. And yeah, this kid has a bright future ahead of him. And but instead of giving him another book like that, which I have plenty of, I'd suggested to him some spiritual books, some like simple books that had changed my life and that had caused some sort of deeper realization in me that reset my priorities as a person. And I just got thinking about it, and I was like, man, if I could go back and tell my 23-year-old self anything, it would just be that there is no destination, that it is just one big journey. There have been so many times in my life where I was like, this, I have to get to this place in order to be happy or feel like I'm worthy or feel like I've accomplished something. And I don't know if that comes from seeking validation from my father, or if it comes from growing up in America where, hustle culture is so important, or if it just comes out of necessity, knowing that we need money to survive and we all want to have freedom to do whatever, we want to do. But that the older I get and the more stable and calm and relaxed I become, the more I just realize like none of that stuff matters that much. And I wanted to expand on this. I made like a Instagram post about this, but I could rant about this for hours. A lot of comments were like, well, yeah, you have money now, of course you feel that way, or you've accomplished these things. And that's really not it. Obviously there's the hierarchy of needs, and if you're starving and you don't have a place to sleep, this is a pointless video, and so it's not applicable. Don't bean soup theory the video. But outside of like meeting my necessities, like as an artist, I'm a music artist and I'm a creative, and I've always wanted to make a living off of this thing. And I've always prioritized like having millions of plays, or being on this award, or collaborating with this person. And there are lots of things that I've achieved over the years that are super cool, and there's lots of things I haven't achieved yet. And from my experience, after the basic needs being met, none of those things brought me any significant amount of calm or peace or happiness or fulfillment. I got signed to Cash Money when I was like 19 years old, and it was awesome. It was a very cool experience, but it didn't bring me any sort of internal fulfillment or validation. I was still like a lost 19-year-old kid who had just lost his dad, and I didn't feel worthy to be around these people because just didn't feel like I had anything internally figured out to where being in the spaces I was in or around the money I was around, none of that things mattered that much. They didn't do anything for me. And I still hadn't built the things that would make me proud yet. And that the journey of like going after the things that I've been in love with, like music and those things, that the journey of that has been infinitely more fulfilling than any of the accolades that I've reached at any point. And I've had highs externally with accomplishments, and I felt low inside at those times, and then vice versa. I've felt really low internally at times, and or I've had really low external validation and felt really high internally. Just based on how's my relationship with my family or my loved ones, or am I doing things that feed my spirit? Am I chasing the wrong things? And I just wish that I could like go back and tell that version of myself, like, dude, just take the pressure off of this a little bit. None of this is really going to change anything. You're always going to have this striving for more and unsatisfaction in your brain. And when you hit the accolades, you just change the goalpost. I had a record off Black Sheep 5 that just came out. It hit like 1 million views in like 2 weeks or something. And I was like, what? That's insane. 16-year-old me would have been like, dude, what? We're going to do that? Which is amazing. But I felt nothing. And not like in a bad way of like, this was a waste of time. No, it's not that. It's that I already had the joy of creating the record. I recorded that record in this truck. I I bought this truck in like 2019 or something like that. I wanted to go get a Corvette. I didn't really have any money, but I thought I could get it, and my credit was terrible. And I ended up buying this 2015 Chevy, and this thing has served me well, you know. And there was a part of me that had to like get over the thing of like validating myself with the material items, you know. It didn't matter. I love this truck. I've driven this truck all across the country, and I've used it more than I ever would have used a Corvette, you know. And the Corvette was just this like symbol to me. My dad always wanted that car, and I think they're super cool, but like, you know, what does it matter? I made that song that had millions of plays in the front seat of this truck on a road trip. And I pulled off at a gas station. I bought an adapter and I recorded it right here because I had the idea so fresh in my mind that I wanted to do it. But that part of the story was the best part. Being in this like kind of okay truck and recording it at a gas station. That was the best part. Then seeing the number on the screen hit 1 million views like did absolutely nothing for me. I felt nothing, you know. And it's been like that with most accolades in my life. Like there's always a level of like, man, that's cool, and like appreciating your accomplishments. I'm not saying don't go achieve great things. I'm a person with an insatiable appetite for great things, you know. I want to make amazing music, and I want to make great art, and I want to travel the world and interact with people in a way that impacts them. Like I'll never stop striving for that. And I don't mean this video at all to come off as that, but I just mean that do that because you enjoy those things. You know, I enjoy making music. That's why I want to make great music. I enjoy making art, you know, and don't ever lose sight of the fact that the doing is the best part. The journey is the best part, you know. If I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would just be like, dude, make sure you're doing the journey in a way where you enjoy it. Because if you get somewhere and you hated the road it took to get there, like really hated it, not that it was hard or that it was uncomfortable at times, that's going to happen. But like if you hated the road, you failed, man. There were times that I was like doing things musically or trying things musically that weren't really aligning with my spirit, but I was trying to like do what was popular or something like that. And thank God those records flopped. Because I would have hated it. I would have like, I didn't enjoy the process at the time. I didn't enjoy the journey. And if the record did anything, I would have been upset that was the thing that worked, you know? All my biggest records have been ones that I had a really good time making, or I, you know, was really passionate about. And that's where the sweet spot is, man. And I just, you know, a part of it is an American thing. Like we have a culture of hustle over here where like hustle is so important, and you know there's 1 million podcasts about optimizing and, you know, compartmentalizing your time and waking up in your morning routine and all this stuff. And that stuff is cool for a time if that helps you, you know. That things like that did help me get sober, and they helped me, you know, put a lot of effort into something that was taking me away from drugs, you know, or like vices that I had. But at some point I had to like go deeper into this thing and find out that it wasn't the morning routine. It wasn't these certain things that were giving me the fulfillment. You know, I had to like, they were good at bringing me out of something, but I had to rebalance my life and be like, man, what are the things that feed my spirit? You know, I'm married now. I love hanging out with my wife. I love hanging out with my friends. My friends are the best thing in my life. You know, I love riding my motorcycle and seeing nature and painting and recording and these things. If my life is full of those things, I'm happy. It doesn't matter what outward accolade is happening. You know, if I fill my life with the things that genuinely feed my spirit, I am way happy. And it doesn't matter how many plays the album got, you know. Some of my favorite records I had a great time making did nothing externally, and that's okay, you know. Because I gave my life to this stuff. When you find the things that you really love, you could just give your life to them. And find the balance in your life where you do those things and you do the family stuff and you do the things you got to do, and find that sweet balance to where you're just happy no matter what. Because that's the secret. I have a lot of friends that are music artists that are more successful than me. And I'm happy for them, and I look to them as inspiration. But being around them, it's like I know that they're not void of unhappiness and problems. Your problems just change, you know. you got a platinum record or, gold record or whatever, your problems just change. You're stressed out about some other thing. And I haven't seen any exponential difference in the happiness of those people. Again, I'm not saying that there is no difference between having some money and being broke. That is not true. If you're stressed out about money all the time, obviously you'd be a lot more comfortable with a couple $100,000 in your bank account. So I'm not saying don't go do things. Don't take it like that. But just that, even when you got the money, you're going to be stressed. Your bills go up, everything goes up. You're just going to be more stressed. So just make sure that you're finding the balance now, because the accomplishments aren't going to change anything. You know what's crazy is that my favorite band ever has been Circa Survive, and I have the lyrics tattooed on my stomach. I got it when I was like 18 years old. Accomplishments are transient. And it was like this, I don't know why I was called to that lyric so much. I hadn't really accomplished anything at that point. And now I look back and I'm like, man, that was such an omen to like a mantra I needed to have in my life. Accomplishments are transient, there's always going to be more to achieve, man. So just make sure that you enjoy the ride, because that's the most important part. My landlord came by. I had to talk to him. But yeah, just enjoy the ride, dude. There's always going to be something. The goalpost is always going to move. Make sure you're enjoying the ride and you're fulfilled by the journey. You can do that stuff now for free. I really want to start doing more of these video diaries. I've tried to like wean myself off social media a little bit. It's too fast of a it's hitting me with too much stimulus, and I've been spending a lot of time on YouTube, and I love watching people's videos like these. So go ahead and give me some things to talk about, because I want to film these. I want to travel more and camp more this year, and just talk, man. I want something to look back on when I'm older and be like, cool, watch the journey. Anyways, love y'all. Have a good day.